As I was saying, a lot's going on in the world, and we'll be talking about that here on Pod TV and seeing how it's impacting folks and how it's going in their lives and all along those lines. But there are a lot of news stories that are taking place in the world, and of course, we're always glad to be talking about those here on Pod TV and hearing folks' various reactions to a number of the news stories that are taking place. We know that the war in Iran is continuing, and folks are still talking about that and how it is impacting them and all along those lines. So definitely it'll be interesting to hear what folks have to say about that. So definitely it sounds like a lot is going on in the world, and definitely a lot of folks will be interested in these news stories and how they are impacting their lives, because definitely gas is a major issue that we know is taking place around the world and even here in Durham, North Carolina, because definitely the price has been going up and people are definitely concerned about that as well. So definitely it looks like that is one of the major headlines that is taking place, along with a gentleman from Cambridge, Massachusetts, that has been accused of plagiarism. The youngest black professor at Cambridge resigns as university investigates allegations of plagiarism. And Europe heat wave puts all major Italian cities on red alert as Austria sets a heat record. Red alert issued for all major Italian cities as blistering heat wave grips Europe. So that is definitely a story that folks are paying attention to. Italy puts all major cities on highest alert as heat wave intensifies, and some folks are asking how to avoid the worst of the Italian heat wave this summer. Apparently, some people are going on coolcations and all along those lines so they can find parts of the world that aren't as hot. Fires wrecked their village in France, and now they want answers. We shared into an abyss. The men and women battling France's mega fire is what The Guardian is reporting. French winemakers dread smoky taste after the wildfires, and European wildfires continue with the record land burned. And definitely that is something that folks are paying attention to as well. And definitely, it looks like Russia deploys North Korean missile unit to Ukraine, and definitely funeral held for a family wiped off the map in a Russian strike on Ukraine. Neighbors say, but definitely it looks like they have gotten some reinforcements from North Korea. Ukrainian intelligence says Russia plans to deploy North Korean missile unit and all in that space. Iran says it has a deal to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, and ship owners are outraged by its plan to charge fees. Strait of Hormuz tolls would harm livelihoods worldwide, ship owners are warning. Ship owners say Hormuz tolls would lead to more charges elsewhere. Iranian tanker tolls totally legit after all. So global shipping call on UN IMO to ensure no Hormuz tolls. But it looks like there is the notion that there may be some tolls coming as well. And Iran Oman deal on Strait of Hormuz getting close is what Iran was saying. And definitely that's something that folks are talking about, and we'll see how this all plays out. And a drone with explosives found at German airport. Officials see new quality of threat. Germany warns of new threat after explosive packed drone targets airport. The Leipzig drone marks a dangerous escalation for Europe. Explosive drone found at a German airport used by a Ukrainian carrier. Plane near the drone found at the German airport was carrying the ammunition, a media report has put out there. Two soldiers killed in Lebanon in the first Israeli death since the June truce with Hezbollah. The Americans losing homes to Israelis' war in Lebanon is something that CNN is reporting, and conditions of four soldiers wounded in Lebanon have stabilized, according to reports from from the hospital in that area. So Israel strikes South Lebanon after the soldiers were killed. Talks continue in Rome, and this was reported on yesterday. Ukraine says two Russian oil refineries hit as Moscow targets energy sites. Ukraine military hits one of Russia's biggest oil refineries in a long-range drone attack. Oil refinery in Russia's Yaroslavl is on fire after the Ukrainian drone attack, is what the governor is saying in that area. So definitely looks like the Ukraine strikes Russian oil refinery over 1,300 kilometers beyond the front line, says Zelensky. This is chaos. Water emergency as Puerto Rico leaves some desperate. Puerto Rico begins water rationing in San Juan and other major cities as it's going through a water crisis. Puerto Rican cities hit with water rationing measures during a record drought. Puerto Rican cities hit with water rationing measures as record drought conditions persist in that area. And protesters demand government action on Puerto Rico's ongoing water crisis. Hiroshima marks the 81st atomic bomb anniversary as the mayor deploys the pursuit of nuclear weapons. Takachi avoids clear pledge on Japan's maintaining a non-nuclear principles. Hiroshima honors atomic bomb victims as survivor population dwindles. So definitely that is something that folks are talking about as well. And Spain, Ceuta seeks transfer of unoccupied migrant miners to the mainland Spain after the border rush. Morocco feels emboldened, Trump's influence in the spotlight after the Ceuta disaster. And migrant crisis reveals vast differences between Ceuta and its Moroccan neighbors. And Europe encourages its neighbors to practice migration blackmail. So definitely this whole thing with Ceuta is a major story. And a man dressed as the Grim Reaper was arrested after a hospital disturbance. So a ghoul dressed as the Grim Reaper busted for staring at patients, doctors from hospital, and the man arrested after dressing as the Green Reaper on the hospital roof and staring at patients. So this was in Wales over there in Europe. And a retired Army colonel explains why Patriot missiles are so valuable and in short supply. And as we reported yesterday, a gunman kills a Mexican social media influencer during a live stream. Gonna bring in Rick, see what he's got going on in his world.
Good morning.
How you doing? It looks like we got people dressing up as the Grim Reaper, and we got folks doing other crazy stuff. And
all right, yeah, well, a big country full of crazy people. So, gas remains above $4.06 a gallon. This is day 97 or 98 of $4 gas under Trump. Trump is threatening to jail the people who leaked information about the U.S. using up its missiles in our war against Iran.
Right.
He says the leaks aren't true, but the people will be prosecuted anyway. The Senate has voted, a committee has voted to hold Anthony Fauci in contempt for pleading the fifth more than 100 times in testimony. This won't hold up since pleading the fifth is a constitutionally protected right. So, as some people on Twitter, on X are saying, this is just making noise to appease their base. Yeah, while most Americans are more concerned with what's going on now than what the CDC did 6 years ago.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm concerned because I'm seeing this article that says that a powerful El Nino is put in California in the bullseye for a soaking winter. So I know we're dealing with a heat wave right now, but they're saying that some people are even asking what the strongest El Nino on record actually means for humans, but they are saying that we are going to head to one, and it could push 15 million people into acute hunger before the end of next year. So they're saying it could bring record sea levels to the California coast, and I know that that's where you live and everything like that. So how concerned are you about getting washed away?
I'm not concerned about getting washed. Well, we've got a big old hill across the street from us, but I don't think we're not going to get a mudslide that will bury us. But yeah, we could have some uncomfortable conditions. Everybody has noticed that, the weather effects are more extreme in the last 5-10 years.
Yeah, there's definitely more extreme weather effects and everything like that. I did mention that some places we had some in some of our counties here, but some of them have been alleviated. Some are still going on, but not as deep as the ones in Puerto Rico. So what do you think of this notion of trying to ration water when you're in the middle of a drought? Because apparently that's what they're doing in Puerto Rico, and that's what we've done even here and everything like that. So
Yeah,
now,
we do in LA. We have that where you can get fined for watering your lawn too much. There's been a big push for years and years to have people replace their grass lawns with what's called a xeriscape, which is using desert. I mean, Los Angeles, if you know anything about LA, you know that it's a desert that shouldn't be green at all, that we stole a bunch of water from Central California and routed it down to us. That's the plot of the classic movie Chinatown with
right.
Jack Nicholson. So yeah, we live on stolen water here in LA. And people in Beverly Hills might have big green lawns that they keep watering even under drought conditions, and they can get fined hundreds, maybe even thousands of bucks for watering on days that they shouldn't be.
Days that they're not supposed to water, and there's supposed to be restrictions on certain things that you can do, and not just lawns, but other things as well. I think there's even in some places limits on the time that you can take in the shower and stuff like that. But it looks like the UN rights chief is alarmed by a rise in Iran execution since March. So at a public execution in Iran, a crane became a gallows, and the UN rights chief is saying that Iran executed at least 56 people since March, and there's a sharp spike in the execution death sentences in Iran. So UN experts is urging Iran to end the targeting.
So we haven't changed Iran's behavior one bit by going to war against them. The regime continues to be harsh, punitive, deadly, and if we were going to go to war against Iran, somebody has pointed out, we should have done it before they executed and shot in the street 40,000, 50,000 of their own people, because those would have been people who would have been in the street, help like internally adding to stress on the regime. But no, we waited until the regime had already killed all of them and pacified its population centers before we went to war. So our timing was not only was our judgment in going to war bad, our timing was stupid.
Well, speaking of time and stupid, and this war's been going on for a while, as also I think going on its fourth or fifth year, but it looks like crowded Russian beaches descended into chaos after an alleged Ukrainian drone incident killed 7, including 4 children. So there's video showing moments the drone burst into fireball on a Russian beach and everything like that. So it looks like they are maybe having their own version of Pearl Harbor, even though I don't think this is a beach that was militarily tied and everything like that. But it looks like they are targeting in a variety of places, just like the Russians are targeting in a variety of places. So it looks like they are targeting everything from cities to beaches. So it sounds like it's a expanding war.
Well, I mean, so Russia keeps targeting civilians and cities in Kyiv and other cities, and Ukraine is responding in kind.
Yep, definitely. It looks like the Brazilian presidential candidate, Bolsonaro, and I think he's running against Lula, has named a surprising running mate. Apparently, he announced his running mate for Brazil's October election, and I guess to get some of the support from maybe more moderates and everything like that, he's named Alfredo Gasper as his running mate. So it looks like he seeks a reset with a surprise running mate pick. Maybe we'll have something like that happen in the U.S. politics, where maybe AOC or Pete Buttigieg will pick somebody surprising, and the same with Vance or Rubio. Maybe they'll pick somebody.
Well, Bolsonaro went to prison for a while, didn't he?
He did.
But so somehow he's still going to run for president again?
He's running for president again, so he's getting a chance to be president one more time.
Okay, well.
And then they said I don't know much about his running mate. Maybe you see some things about his running mate, but I'm guessing because they said it's a surprise running mate. So I'm guessing it's because he is maybe on the opposite side of the political aisle and everything like that. I'm actually looking at Bloomberg to see what Bloomberg says and why this is a surprising running mate and everything.
Well, yeah, I'm looking at the article. I don't know. I mean, it seems like a doomed attempt. He's already been in prison for malfeasance while in office, trying to hold on to office after he failed to be reelected. He's lost support from some right wing. So I don't know. It
And it
seems
looks like
like
this guy is not necessarily well known in the political realm and everything like that. So that might be part of the surprises that he picked somebody, because it says conservative lawmaker Alfredo Gasper unveiled as Liberal Party's vice president candidate. So it sounds like they are on opposite ends of the political spectrum. And I know that
he named a running mate who's conservative. So it's not like he. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what his chances are of getting elected again. Let's find out. He's part of in the past 5 years, there was a wave of 5, 10 years of right-leaning assholes who rose to power. And that tide has been receding a little bit, but I don't know whether he has a chance.
well, apparently the current president and his son is being investigated over allegations he received improper payments linked to a scheme involving deductions from pensions administered by the INSS and everything. So the Lulu's son has denied the allegation. So it sounds like they got some dirty politics going on in Brazil as well. So it sounds like they might be throwing mud at each other and everything like that. So and apparently Senator Bolsonaro had previously floated the idea of choosing a woman as his running mate, made a public falling out with his stepmother, former First Lady Michelle Bolsonaro. And this is the senator who is the son of the former president. And
All right, so AI is refusing to tell me his chances, saying that this is in order to protect the election, the integrity of the election.
Well, that's something new for AI. So AI is not going to tell us until we get closer or something along those lines. So this is definitely not something that we've seen before.
But here's a set of polls that shows that his main opponent has 47% of the projected vote versus 36 for Bolsonaro.
Okay.
Several other polls show his opponent with a 12 percentage point lead and an 8 percentage point lead. So I don't. The election is a little before ours in October, and his chances don't look great. Nor should they. He's a criminal guy who has been to prison for shit he did the last time he was president. The same way that we should have had a different attorney general under Biden, who should have prosecuted Trump faster for crimes he committed the last time he was president.
Yeah. I know that Sasha has been to various countries, including some in Latin America, and apparently Pope Leo is going to some of the same countries that he's been to. Because I think you went to or visited Uruguay. I can't remember if you visited Argentina and Peru, but it looks like Pope Leo said that he's going to go visit those cities as he's visiting 10 cities in South America in November and everything like that. So what is our thoughts around the Pope trying to I guess solidify the Catholic faith in Latin America and all along those lines, and also trying to be a world leader? Because a lot of times the Pope is even in conflict with the president, and him and Trump don't always, well, actually they don't get along. But what's your take on the Pope's visit to his our backyard, and definitely the president's backyard? Because I'm sure Trump will have something to say about this visit.
A population of Latin America is deeply Catholic, deeply religious, of course, and it's a very natural thing that Pope is going to visit them. What Trump has to do is that I don't understand and don't see much of whatever he can do there. So it's just a natural thing. There's nothing much to comment about it.
You know, there's been wars going on, and we talked about how there are all these different conflicts, including some new ones that are popping up. But there's been a war that's been going on for a while, and it looks like they might actually be having some peace, at least for now. But Turkey is aiming to end the conflict with and disband the Kurdistan Workers' Party. So it looks like there might be a peace between Turkey and the Kurdish fighters, and the bill aiming for this peace is going before their parliament and everything like that. So are we going to have some peace in Turkey? And is this conflict that's been going on for decades, I think, finally going to come to an end? Because terror-free Turkey bill is sent to the commission for review. So they're saying that they want some sort of peace and all along those lines. So I know, Sasha, you follow the world and everything like that, and some people also follow, like Rick and sometimes Jacoby as well. So do y'all think that this will be finally a solid peace that can be finally been maintained?
So the question is if there will be lasting peace. Is that one? No, there will not be a lasting peace. Look at the reality, and there is no lasting peace anywhere. There will be no peace anywhere at all. That's a reality where we are living, and we have to get used to it.
Yeah, makes sense and everything. Hey, I know you have on your show tomorrow, Ukraine, Russia, China.
Yeah.
I'll talk about other parts of the world. But definitely, I'm just seeing a story here that the EU is to transfer 1.4 billion pounds in profits from frozen Russian assets to Ukraine. So what kind of impact will this have on that war? Because I'm thinking that could definitely buy a lot of drones and everything like that. So it looks like they are releasing some money that they had obtained and everything like that. So what's your take on this money that's getting ready to come into the Ukrainian coffers?
Though that has to create a condition where Russians will clearly understand that cost of continuation of the war is way much higher than whatever peace there could be arranged. Once that happened, there could be some possibilities for peace. I don't know how long it will last and what are the guarantees of that peace and so on. The best a scenario for a peace would be a destruction of Russia. If Russia would disappear, let's see if Putin would have been killed tomorrow or later on today, and the country will disintegrate in, say, 6 to 8 different regions. That is the best guarantee for a peace. There will be no more wars with Russia, and Russia will not continue its aggressive policy against not just Ukraine, against all world. If you wish, its support of Iran and helping them with all kinds of military shipments and so on. And I can go on and on. Doesn't change anything. The Russia has to somehow they have to transform itself into a few different states. That's the only guarantee of peace there is. If not, Russia will fight for yet another 10 to 15 years. And although what Europeans are doing lately may change that perspective, simply because they are now producing more and more weapons. They're now producing or about to start to produce their own interceptors for Patriot and other missiles. So there will be much less and less dependence on the United States from everybody, from starting from European Union and going just anywhere in the world. And that's a result of Trump's foreign policy, which is disastrous for America, and it will take dozens of years to repair if possible.
So the U.S. has a strategic petroleum reserve designed to provide some protection in the event of international emergencies. It's at its lowest level in more than 30 years. We only have 42 days of oil left in the reserve. The normal amount is more than 50% more than that. I don't know what happens if that runs, gets even lower, which it will if we don't have an agreement. I assume it means that gas prices will, once we hit the limit of that reserve, will go up very fast. There is negotiation going on with Iran, but it's mostly between Iran and Oman, Iran controls the north side of the Strait of Hormuz. Oman controls the south side, which is the strait is a pinch point in the body of water that all the ships have to go through. And there are some negotiations between the U.S. and Iran and Oman, but Iran and Oman insist that they are going to control the strait and probably charge a toll for tankers going through there.
And the shippers are having a fit about that. So, what is our thought about this notion of Iran charging a toll? I know that even Trump knows to put out the idea of charging a toll as well, but it does sound like tolls are coming in. I know that that's one of the stories I mentioned before you got on, Rick, that apparently the ship owners are having a hissy fit and everything like that.
So, a tanker that's full of oil can be worth more than $200 million. So if they charge a toll of 0.5%, they can make $1 million per tanker, and probably to end the war, we eventually will probably have to agree to something like that, which is a change for the worse compared to before when we started the war. We're not getting them to give up their nuclear weapons program. And so we're going to almost certainly, when the war ends, Iran's going to be in a better position than it was before the war.
Before me and Rick get to some of the U.S. news, and I know Abdul El Saeed is one of those stories, I do have to ask y'all a question because I did see another international story, and I love my fruits and everything like that. I mean, I'm a big fan, but don't have any right now, of oranges and cantaloupes and a number of other things. But I've never heard of what a durian is. But apparently Malaysian durian orchard growers are having to spend a lot of time growing this fruit because it's very popular in China, and apparently it's being impacted by the heat wave as farmers are fighting the extreme weather to feed the craven that apparently is a very popular fruit in China. So I don't know if any of y'all know what a durian is or if y'all have ever had a durian. But
yeah, it's the stinkiest fruit there is. It smells terrible, but people like it. But if you take it on public transportation, it's described as having a smell of rotting onions, sewage, garbage, and turpentine mixed with custard. Due to what it smells like, it is banned in many hotels, airports, and public transportation across Southeast Asia.
No, but apparently the Chinese love it, and apparently it's got a severe craving that they've got and everything like that. I mentioned earlier, before I get to the news from the U.S., there is a black professor out of Cambridge that apparently was doing plagiarism, and I know I've got friends that are teaching. We've talked about AI and everything like that. For professors and even students, hasn't it become easier to be a plagiarist and everything like that?
Yeah. I mean, the high schools, middle schools, colleges across America, and I assume the world, are in a little bit of a shambles because so many students are using AI to do work for them. And it's changed how homework is assigned. Because what's the point of homework if you're just going to have AI do it for you? It's changed how tests are administered. No more take-home tests. Everything, most of the testing has to be in class without devices.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah, bless you and everything like that. I told you Trump is clashing with all these people because apparently Trump and his just clashed at Camp David over Iran missile depletion concerns. So apparently they were having, I know you just mentioned that earlier, this whole notion of what's going on in that space. And New Jersey's Mikey Sherrill has entered the national political fray with a first-term set of midterm endorsements aimed at veterans. So apparently she's definitely trying to get the support of the veterans, and thus it looks like she is trying to deliver the PAC endorsed a slate of fellow veterans. So it looks like this is an attempt to get more veterans in Congress. So she's entered the political fray by backing 13 veteran candidates. So what's our notion and our thoughts? Because I've worked with a couple of veteran organizations of having more veterans in the Congress. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing?
Well, yeah, of course it's a good thing. The Trump administration and Trump himself has a record of fucking over veterans and having contempt for the troops. And yeah, we need some counter to that. Here's another thing in the news. There's a Republican, one Republican congressman has resigned for being overly romantic and sexual with his staffers. He says he did not have romantic intent, but I think an ethics committee said that it looks a lot like, that it stinks of that kind. And then this Max Miller guy, who is, the focus of a lot of attention for accusations. He broke his less than 2-year-old baby's collarbone. He threw boiling water at his now ex-wife. There's a series of emails between Miller and his ex-wife, and their lawyers have been released showing that Miller, just to be a fucking prick, would not give back the 2-year-old baby's favorite toy, a stuffed rabbit. He was there's just a series of communication going on for days with this alleged abuser refusing to give, a favorite stuffed animal back to his own kid just to be a dick.
Yeah, we'll see how this plays out. Hey, by the way, is Steve Hilton, who's running there in California, is he related to the Hilton Hotel?
No. I mean, not maybe distantly, but no, he's not the Paris Hiltons. He's a transplanted Brit. He comes from Britain. He's lived in the U.S. He's worked for Fox News for, I don't know, probably more than a decade. Among Fox News personalities, he's probably less of an a-hole, but still his chances of winning, he's one of 2 candidates running in the main election. We had a jungle primary with a bunch of people running for governor. Now we're having a runoff in November between the 2 candidates that got the most votes, Xavier Becerra and Hilton. And we're a primarily Democratic voting state. So
can you get any help from this message that he's trying to get? Because what I'm seeing in Politico is that he is trying to bust up y'all's, and a lot of people have them, energy monopoly. So he wants to break up the Pacific gas and energy monopoly. According to
our public, are not our utility companies, which they're traded like private companies, though I think there's a public aspect to them. They are a-holes. I just read an article in the newspaper this morning that they're trying to limit their own liability when their crappy equipment catches fire and burns down a big chunk of burns down thousands of homes. They're saying, well, it's bad for our shareholders for us to have full liability. They do suck. So when Hilton says that something needs to be done about California's power companies, he's not wrong.
Right.
But even so, I don't think, he might pull 40% of the vote, maybe 42% of the vote, but he's still a Republican in a state that is 2/3 Democratic.
There was another story I was going to get to, but that's all one that I know Sasha will love to hear about. But just really quickly, are we ever going to get a resolution to the Nolan Wells case and everything like that? Because I see 3 people are charged with threatening judges and witnesses and officials tied to the Nolan Wells investigation. And this is the gentleman that went on vacation with several of his friends and was found dead, and all along those lines. And now there's some people that are wondering what happened and whether the friends were involved or not. But they are definitely charging some people for making threats against the witnesses. So it does sound like there's some sort of conspiracy going on and everything like that. So what is y'all's take? Is there ever going to be resolution, or do y'all feel that there can be resolution to that case?
Well, I don't know. I mean, case stuff like this is I don't know. I consider it kind of noise in the middle of everything else going on. You know, we had Natalie Holloway 20 years ago. A high school girl goes on vacation in some Caribbean island and pops up dead, and never been. You know, when people go on the beach and get shit faced, there's often not enough evidence to ever resolve the frickin' case. And the case of Natalie Holloway, after decades, like of the guy who murdered her, continuing to fuck up across the world, we have a pretty good idea of who killed her. But that's not a given. I don't know what percent of you watch murder shows on TV and they always solve the case. But in real life, I think less than half of all murders are solved.
Yeah, a lot of them are not solved, and I'm seeing that there's another murder that's in the news now as well. It almost reminds me of the case here in North Carolina, in Durham to be specific, but apparently in a case involving Louisville and Oregon, four of a certain pastor's wives were found dead, and decades later, police are reopening two cases because they're wondering if the pastor didn't kill at least two of his wives and everything like that. So it definitely looks like both Louisville and Oregon are revisiting that particular case and everything like that. And I know that that's part of what happened in Michael Peterson's case, where they investigated another one of his wives that was in, I think it was Germany, but you told me, can correct me if I'm wrong and everything like that. But she was definitely in Europe and all along those lines. And that came up in the court case and everything like that. And he's now out after having served some prison time and everything like that. At least I think he's still out. Just really quickly, this is what I was going to bring up to you, Sasha, but it looks like there is some major news about, Trump loves to name things after himself. And the first Trump-class battleship could cost $23.4 billion is what the CBO is reporting. So he's already got a helicopter, he's got his plane, and now he's going to have.
Let me quick before Sasha said, we don't need another freaking battleship. A battleship is World War II technology. Sasha.
Yeah, you're right, Rick. It's a quite obsolete, brain dead invention and reason to spend even more money. I'm more and more being convinced that Pentagon is nothing but a factory for laundering the money. They're just taking your money and build the battleship, rocket ship, or just any other ships. There is no use to it. There is no any benefits at all. I don't see why American people, their standard of living would rise as a result of this battleship. No, it's far the opposite. So this is a complete bamboozle. I'm surprised that American people are eating it. They have to go to their representatives and say, stop this. Pandemonium will never work for you in our lives if that will continue. And they will immediately stop that everything. But the American people, very strange in some ways. For example, if you take election of 2016, so Trump won and he beat Hillary Clinton. But there was another alternative. So Trump was very much so as the populist, and so he did quite well for himself. But there was a real contender who was promising a lot to American people. But unlike Trump, he could deliver that. His name is Bernie Sanders. So if people would vote for him, American lives today would be way much better than they are today.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Hey, Toby, really quickly, because I know you've got children. I've got other friends with children as well. And it looks like we do have somebody that was confirmed. It's actually a sister, and all along those lines. But the Senate on Wednesday voted to confirm Dr. Erica Short, a physician who has repeatedly affirmed the safety and efficiency of childhood vaccines. as the director of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And this is the agency's first full-time leader in nearly a year. And of course, it did go down partisan ways and everything like that. I think the only Democrat that voted in her favor was Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia and everything like that. But just wondering, are you a big fan of childhood vaccines? And also, is this going to be a good thing since we already got Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy and the CDC hasn't had? Apparently, the CDC has lost about a third of its staff to layoffs and resignations and endured a shooting at its headquarters in Atlanta and is grappling with a string of high-profile outbreaks, including Cyclosporus in the United States and Ebola in Africa. So it looks like she got a lot of work cut out for her. But what's your take on this, Toby, and all along those lines? It looks like she got a lot of work cut out for her, but it has been approved as the head of the CDC.
That's a kid pool.
She'll be fired in about a month.
She'll be fired.
She'll be fired in about a month.
You only give it about a month.
She's not a crazy person. She's a reasonable person and an experienced administrator. She's a doctor. She's a retired rear admiral and former deputy surgeon general. So, if she stands up to the current regime and starts calling out nonsense, she'll get in trouble.
Well, speaking of getting in trouble, apparently New Mexico is suing Todd Blanche and the DOJ over Epstein files tied to the Zorro Ranch investigation. So I know that there's still people that want to get to the bottom of what's going on or what went on with Epstein. But apparently New Mexico is suing Todd Blanche, who I think is going up.
Right. So Epstein had a ranch in New Mexico where, wherever Epstein had something, girls were being abused. And the Todd Blanche's Justice Department is stonewalling New Mexico and investigating what went on at the ranch. Now, we don't know. I don't know how many people ever lived at the ranch. I don't know how much time Epstein spent at the ranch. He was a rich guy. He had lots of places he could go. So I don't know how much there is there, but neither does anybody. And the Justice Department doesn't want anybody to find out.
They don't want folks to find out and everything like that. So we'll find out what goes on in that space.
Rick, quick question, Rick. In California, right? In California, where you live, is there a Best Buy?
Yeah, there is.
And people working at Best Buy, right?
Yeah.
And Best Buy they opened a store. They opened a bunch of stores here in North Carolina. Do people work in those stores?
Yes.
So the reason they're hiding it, because when you have an enterprise, people are working in more than one place.
You're saying that people at that who worked at the New Mexico ranch maybe were moved around his sets of properties, and they maybe know more than just what happened in New Mexico.
Yeah, there's a whole nother thing to do with the whole New Mexico thing. So Epstein had the island, Epstein had the ranch. If you don't like the ocean, where are you gonna go?
I mean, you'll go. I've lived in New Mexico. I get really bored with New Mexico really fast. So I don't know.
But that's not what Epstein's clients went to New Mexico for.
Right. If they went to New Mexico to abuse girls, then okay. Yeah, but we're having a hard time finding out what happened because Trump's Department of Justice doesn't want to let any investigation happen.
And Trump is dropping the suit with when he's trying to sue the BBC.
Yeah, I made a little.
He's trying to drop that suit.
Oh, because the BBC is insisting on disclosure of Trump's assets to see if the.
I wonder what he's trying to hide.
Yeah, what's he trying to hide there? Speaking of hiding,
he wants to hide a bunch of stuff. But the BBC. So Trump claims that the BBC did a deceptive edit in a doc they did about January 6th that hurt him. And the BBC is coming back and saying it's a nonsense suit since the doc was not even available to be seen in the United States. And the edit, they've apologized for the edit. They jammed a couple clips together that didn't actually happen together. The BBC apologized. I think some people lost their jobs, but the BBC said it didn't hurt you. It was only seen in Britain. And so if you want to show damages, then you're going to have to reveal your finances to show that you actually suffered something.
Yeah. Hey, Sasha, just really quick on another story, but it's still tied to something you talk about quite often and everything like that. Trump has really been big on tariffs. He's been big on tariffs for a while. He just slapped some more tariffs on some other countries and everything like that. But apparently China's not really having this because they just announced countermeasures against Washington, including controls on drone exports to the U.S. And we know from the war in Ukraine that drones is the new form of military and military encounters and everything like that, that it will probably be popular for decades, if not centuries, and everything like that. You don't have to really put that much human life in. Well, I mean, there's various reasons and all of that in that space. But what is your thoughts about this notion of China limiting drones to the U.S.? I'm not that we're in the middle of we are in the middle of the war with Iran, so that could.
Well, I want to say one thing about drones and that battleship. For the price of that battleship, you could build 10 million drones, and 10 million drones are more effective in modern warfare than one lumbering old battleship.
There's just one thing. These drones, they have to be delivered close to the theater of the war. So maybe they need some special, much smaller and faster battleship to deliver the drones where they can fly and actually inflict damage to the other side.
True. I mean, a battleship is just a big, slow target for the other side's drones or missiles. But yeah, the reason drones are one reason drones are so effective in Ukraine is because the Russians are in Ukraine right up against the Ukrainians. And so you can drop drones on them from, like 100 meters away.
That's right. But Ukrainians now using a new strategy. They have sea drones as well, as you know. So they are using sea drones to inflict damage to Russian land sites. So they're coming very close to the beach and unleash a deadly load of all kinds of bombs and other equipment on the Russians, and they're extremely effective. And because they're so fast, it's very difficult to detect them and do anything against them. And Russians, they're not even trying. They're saying, okay, it's act of war. Okay, so we lost some, unfortunately. But what's happening in Russia, it's ridiculous because Ukrainians are destroying their infrastructure, and not forget about the oil refineries. Now they're going to much farther. They're now operating in 2 kilometers from the Moscow city center, and they're destroying a lot of targets. And there are a lot of people in Russia who even a couple of months ago, they were not aware that there is a war. Oh, the war is somewhere else, we don't care. So now everybody cares, big time. So the situation is changing there very, very rapidly.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, Rick, it looks like Fox is at it again, and they're upset at the Michigan race because apparently Abdul El Saeed, moments after capturing the Democratic Party nomination in Michigan, sparked online controversy. And I know you follow a lot of the online conversations for his word choice in challenging the Republican nominee, Mike Rogers, to a series of 5 debates. I know you're going to say no because you're a coward. 5 debates, all right. El Said said, "You and I both know that you will wither in front of your own crimes, but I'm going to make sure Michiganders know about them. By the time we're done, you're not going to have safe quarters from people holding you accountable for what you've done." El Said can continue. And apparently this is where Fox gets into it. The language of safe quarters is raising eyebrows, or at least that's what they're claiming, because they're saying that safe quarters is a term that is used by a lot of folks in board conflicts and stuff
But
like
the
that.
Republicans have very little to run on in the midterms, so they are resorting to fear and name calling, and they often, their politicians look like crap compared to the young, charismatic progressives, some of whom are getting elected on the Democratic side, like Tallarico down in Texas is the Democratic Senate candidate against Paxton. Paxton is an old fat guy with a wonky eye. And all the Republicans in Texas are calling Paxton a pussy, a fairy, because he's a slender young guy, right? But he hasn't called them out on being fat old pieces of crap. But that's often the situation where you've got old entrenched politicians versus young dynamic. Mamdani is a charming guy. His policies aside, he gets out there, he's smiling, he's waving. People like him when he shows up in public. So yeah.
And apparently the same thing with Abdul El Said, and apparently there's going to be some conversations about where folks own their homes at, because one of the conversations that they were bringing up is apparently the candidate that is the Republican candidate owns a home in Florida, but now the Republican strategists are saying that he should throw out that El Said owns a home or owns some property in Dubai, which is definitely not in Florida and not even in the United States. So they're trying to make it out that he's
it's garbage. Paxton down in Texas, the scumbag Republican candidate for the Senate, owns 15 homes on an annual salary of $150,000. How did this guy amass millions and millions of dollars of real estate? 15 homes is a lot of homes for somebody to have. And he's wildly corrupt.
And I see that Mike Rogers, El Said had a nice quote, and I don't know what y'all agree with it, but he said Mike Rogers is a guy whose politics and visions and perspectives are old, kind of the point that you were making, Rick. Mike Rogers is a guy who's never shied away from a corporation he can do a favor for. If you want a senator who's going to lick some boots, fine, go vote for Mike Rogers. But if you want a senator who's going to stand up to Donald Trump, then you've got your option right here. So they're definitely trying to paint the line as to who they support and who they don't support and everything like that. So what's your take on this kind of attack politics? So that does seem to be what's going on.
Yeah, I think
really quickly, because I want to hear Toby's thoughts around this.
Yeah, okay, go.
The time that Cooper was seen as being like solidly in the lead, but now because of the attack ads and see people claiming that they are letting criminals out on both sides, that lead has shrunken. I think even Steve has said it's down to like 3 or 4% or something like that. So Cooper could be in trouble, even though this is a swing vote here in North Carolina because of some of these attack ads that Mike Watley is doing. So what is your take on these attack ads? So they seem to be too effective, because I saw one that almost reminded me of Willie Horton. Jacoby?
Oh, you talking about how the things have shifted because of Cooper, because of the attack ads? That's normal.
Yeah.
I mean, people are going to fall for stuff, which is sad, but people fall for stuff.
We have 89 days now until the midterms, and things are going to the rhetoric's going to get a little bit shittier every day for the next 3 months.
Yep.
Boy, so the rhetoric's going to get real, because I haven't seen that in the local race and everything like that, well, the state race. But yeah, the rhetoric is definitely going to get crazy and all along those lines. What other stories are you seeing?
Hi, Mark.
What other stories are you seeing, Rick, and everything like that?
What do we got here? Tucker Carlson. So MAGA is fragmenting to a certain extent. Not all of MAGA is happy with what Trump has been doing. including Tucker Carlson, who wants a third party to more strongly maintain MAGA values after Trump is gone. And so, and any kind of splits in MAGA are good for the rest of the country.
They're definitely good for the rest of the country. I just don't see, and I know that even David Walker has been an advocate of it and everything like that. Maybe I'm just not as optimistic as some people, but I really don't see the success of a third party anytime soon, even though I've had people putting the death knell on both the Democrat and the Republican Party.
We haven't had a new major political party. The last time we had one was 1860, when the Republicans came into being and elected Abraham Lincoln as the first Republican president. That was 166 years ago. It's really hard for a third party to get a foothold. Ross Perot in 1992 got 19% of the presidential vote, which gave Clinton the victory by splitting the Republicans more than the third party split the Democrats. But our politics is even more screwed up now than it was in 1992. So if there was ever a chance for a new party to emerge in the past century, now would be the time.
Yeah,
because the Republicans really aren't doing anything for anybody. They are just almost fully consumed with nonsense. And when it's not nonsense, it's more tax cuts for billionaires. And people are, frustrated with governance on both sides, but, more reasonably against the Republicans.
Yeah, because I was just curious, because I had heard way back when about the Lenora Fulani candidacy. And by the way, she was the first African-American to run as a presidential candidate on the ballot in all 50 states back in 1988, and the first woman to achieve ballot access in all 50 states during the U.S. presidential general election. But as part of this new alliance party, she got in the 88 election 217,221 votes, which was 0.24% of the national total.
So, I mean, if there were a charismatic new candidate among conservatives, like a conservative version of Mamdani, young and energetic, that person could conceivably, mobilize people to form a third party that could pull up to, 25% of the vote in 2028. I don't see that happening. I don't see Tucker Carlson having a viable, people are urging him to run for president. He's old. He's got a long record of MAGA type rabble rousing and lunacy. Like he's the guy who said that to be manly, you need to go outside with no pants on and let the sun shine on your taint, on your ball area. He's got so much of that nuttiness that I don't think he's a viable candidate. But somebody like a conservative Obama, somebody who comes out of nowhere, is charming and doesn't have a long record of standing for ridiculousness.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Well, we're going to get out of here. We'll probably have World Politics later today. I know we've definitely got Coco McMillan later on today as well, because she'll have a couple of gospel artists that she'll be featuring, as she oftentimes features either gospel or R&B artists, including some that are internationally known. But now it's time for us to get on out of here. But it's been another good conversation about a lot of things around the world, and we'll be back here on tomorrow, later on today, as well as on tomorrow as well. But I'll catch y'all.